Hey guys, so I realized that the previous video that I uploaded, I had a bunch of lines on it. I'm guessing it's because of the window, so I figured I'd shoot this one just straightforward. But as I mentioned in the previous video, this video is specifically made upon a personal request by Alex Fithero. I really don't know how to begin it, as far as, I don't understand what he's going through. I don't know how hard or how easy it is. I don't know what are the parameters, the variables that he's going through. But I've realized I've never talked to you guys really about my personal life. I've never given you guys any kind of background as to me. You guys just know me as the videos that you've seen in Swifty, IRL, and basically the videos that I make of information. But you guys don't know me. It's, I guess, kind of what I'm getting at. But I wanted to give you guys just a little bit of background, because I think that the way we see YouTubers, people in general, whether celebrities, people that do streaming, people that do YouTube, whatever it is, I think that the image that we see really is just a perverted vision of the actual person, the reality of their life. Whether it's me, whether it's John, whether it's, Nigga Higa, anybody out there in YouTube, or any celebrity really, they all have their own hardships. And I'll give you just my personal one. Most of you guys don't know, but I never had a father. My dad passed away in 1978 from basically cancer. It started in his colon, then it spread to his bone, and he passed away 26 days before I was born. I have an older brother on my mom's side, and I have 3 others on my dad's side. My older brother at the time was 6 years old. My mom was 28 when she was about to have me, or when she had me, I should say. She had just turned 28 on August 9th of 1978. And she had me, so she's going through the loss of what she says is the love of her life, which was my dad. You go through postpartum depression. She wasn't working at the time. My dad was actually a VP of a university in Puerto Rico, the Inter-American University, finishing up his PhD at the time as well. And he was also the ambassador of education between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So I'm born. My mom basically has a second child to take care of, postpartum depression, and you lost the love of your life. So my mom had to very quickly kind of get back up on her feet. Obviously, the family helped her as much as they could. She has a younger sister, which is my aunt, I believe, is 3 years her junior. So she was doing her MBA at the time, so she wasn't able to help her out too much. But probably my grandpa and my grandma were the ones that are helping her out. I don't know. But that's kind of my beginning. So because I was the last child on my dad's side, I have 3 other ones on my dad's side. My oldest one passed away also. So I have a sister and a brother on my dad's side. I'm the youngest one. So you can imagine what a mom goes through when, the person that you love, you're married to, passes away and he leaves you a child. You become very, very protective. So in my family, I'm the baby, I'm the sheltered one. I'm the one that, unfortunately my brother, Ruben, which is an attorney by the way, Ruben basically got, I wouldn't say ignored, but it's a lot of things that I got away with that my brother could never get away with. And it's a lot of things that were placed on him as far as responsibility over me that, I'd push the envelope and he'd be the one that had to pay the consequences for my behavior. So my brother had to grow up very, very quickly. He became a man very early on because obviously my mom couldn't be omnipresent. She couldn't be in 2 places at once. So she had to opt for who am I going to take care of most and who am I going to really pay more attention to, and who's the one that's got to grow up faster. Well, my brother got the short end of that stick. So I was the one that was getting driven to school and picked up from school. My brother was the one that had to take public transportation to school and from school. So my brother has always been my guardian. But there's a lot of things that my brother went through as far as, I wouldn't call it neglect, but I guess it is kind of that, neglect. Things that he probably thinks that I was getting that he wasn't getting. So that's kind of my family life. I was raised by matriarch, so I had my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, my brother, and me. So it's 5 of us. So I haven't had any major losses in my life ever, so I have no clue what it is to lose somebody close to you. I know that I've lost my dad, but I wasn't around when he passed away. I've lost my grandpa and my grandmother on my dad's side, but I never really grew up with them either. And I've lost my oldest brother on my dad's side, but I also didn't know him that well either. So I've had 4 losses, but at the end of the day, there weren't anything like critical to me because they weren't in my close nucleus. My nucleus would be a loss of my grandmother, which is 92 years old, and she's probably the one that's going to go before anybody else. So that gives you a little background. This is where I come from. In 1990s, where I moved to the U.S., the reason for us to move here was my mom at that time had found somebody else that she was going to basically be in her life with. The gentleman belonged to a family that owned supermarkets and hardware stores in Puerto Rico. And we moved here in 1990 because he literally got carjacked in front of our house. My mother would pick me up from school, drop me off at my grandmother's house. I would eat dinner, do my homework. She would go and was doing two things. She was finishing up her MBA at the time, and she was a TA at a university. She eventually became a professor after the fact, post her MBA. And she was the director of the Department of Medical Sciences in Puerto Rico. So if you wanted to basically study medicine, she was the final say-so of whether or not you went there. Long story short, she meets this guy, so she would drop me off at my grandmother's house and then pick me up when she got done with her MBA and classes. By that time, I was fed, showered, homework was done, and I would, would get driven back to my house, and she and her boyfriend at the time would spend time together. In one of those nights, he got carjacked. So July 17th, if I'm not mistaken, of 1990, we ended up moving here because of that situation. He got carjacked, the jewelry was taken, everything that he had, including the vehicle, wallet, everything was taken at the time. So protective mother my mother is, she said, it's not a healthy environment for my children anymore. My brother at the time was in 11th grade. I was just finishing up my 6th grade year, and we ended up moving here to Orlando in 1990. We've been here ever since, and I've been, West Palm Beach, Orlando, Indiana, in different parts of the states as far as with my educational and work situations that have occurred throughout the years. I've moved to different places. My mom moved back to Puerto Rico in 2004 to take care of my grandparents. I'm not sure if you guys know how Hispanic culture works, but we really don't believe in elderly care. The elderly care is usually provided by the son or the daughter. Once the parents get old, they move to where the grandparents are, the grandparents move with them, and they stay with them until they pass away. And that's going to be my job eventually. When my mom gets to the point that she can't take care of herself, I'll be the one that'll be taking care of her. 2002, when I graduated, you guys know I started in Purdue University. I did pre-med for 2 years, and I switched over to finance and economics, and I finished that up in UCF. I graduated just after September 11th, so the market really was just in the shitter. So I couldn't go into finance, which is where my degrees were in, or anything banking or economics related, so I ended up going into the real estate market as a real estate appraiser. Did that for about 2 years, and that got picked up by AIG. I did a stint in AIG for about a year, year and a half, and then my remainder of time I did it with Merrill Lynch up until 2009. And I was a business financial advisor with them. I have all my licenses, Series 7, 66, 215. I even took a certification for a CRPC, which is a Charter Retirement Planning Counselor. And I was one of just a few financial advisors that specialize on businesses between $10 million to $250 million gross here in the Central Florida area. I believe I'm familiar with 4 of them that we had. There was one in Tampa. Nemes Valdez, he actually takes care of the Publix family. There was another one in Ventura, which is towards Miami, and there was actually one in Miami, which is Enrique Falla, and they all work for Merrill Lynch, and those are the guys that basically I'm familiar with. Merrill Lynch went under 2009, and I opened up a business with an acquaintance of mine called Richard Fuentes, and this is where my hardships have gone, because I've had, as you guys can see, you study your ass off for college. When you come out, you can't find a job. So when I came out, my hardship was my mom had moved to Puerto Rico to take care of my grandparents, so I was solo. I don't have any family here. I have friends, people that I've known for a long, long time, but I have zero family in Florida or anywhere near me without driving 8 hours, which is I have a cousin but in Pensacola, 8-hour drive from here. But as far as me being able to go to my mom's house or any kind of family member here locally, I don't have that. So my first hardship was basically moving to Purdue University. My first year back in 1997, 1998, it was my first day away from home, and that was probably one of the hardest things I've had to do. I went through depression because you're away from home, it's gloomy up there, and you just go, you miss your house, you miss people that you miss what you're familiarized with. When I graduated, you go through the hardship that you can't find a job. There was no job in the financial field. The market had just crashed. So you had to be very creative in what you did, and you had to just kind of think things through. When I was able to go back into the financial field, I went through a secondary crash. Not only 2001, but I had a crash also again in 2008. You guys don't realize this, but in our end, our crash really began December of 2007. It just hit the fan in a critical mass by 2009, but in Merrill Lynch, the shit was hitting the fan December 2007, January 2008. It just took a year and a half for the whole thing to just come down and collapse, but we were seeing this a year and a half before. So then that happens as far as Merrill Lynch is concerned. I started business February of 2009 with a friend of mine called Richard Fuentes and an attorney, which is Paulo Caram. And I know that in one video before I had mentioned something I couldn't talk about, but I'll talk about it now. Who gives a shit? But I started this business through a money service business, which is the people that send and receive money, like a Western Union, MoneyGram type situation. And I had devised a way through a venture capital fund to actually make investments through the money service business to actually give people a yield that was way above normal for what the market at that time could yield with basically no risk. and we were yielding these people 2% per month. So long as they had the investment with us, it would lock it up. And obviously we made a whole lot more money with that, and my compensation was very, I would say, retardedly good for the amount of work that I was actually doing. I can tell you that if I was doing 20 hours of work, of real work, every single month, I was probably exaggerating. Just because my work was flying around, sitting down with investors and convincing them to give me money, that was my work. Everything else was handled by the attorney and my other firm, Richard Fuentes, and my compensation for that was exceptionally well. I was doing, on my starting months, I think my first paycheck was somewhere around $5,000. My last paycheck that I received was about $60,000, and the amount of work that I did was less actually towards the back end than the front end. Because at the back end, people just threw money at you at that point. We had to shut down our business because the Patriot Act has a section in it that says you have to know your clients' clients, and we weren't able to know the people that were receiving the money. Therefore, for every offense and every time that we couldn't provide that, every time they inquired, it was a $25,000 fine to us. So we ended up basically closing down the operation. Again, I was without a job and having the difficulty that I was going through. Long story short, there was a couple of follies that we had, a bunch of illegalities that my partner was doing. I had to open up an FBI case on this, and literally my partner, here's where my hardship came in. I had raised about $3.7 million, not only from friends and family, but also business associates that go as far back as AIG and Merrill Lynch days, people that were my investors. And just to give you the quick overview, my partner had done things outside of a contractual agreement that we had with the partners, and he blew and basically eradicated the wealth of a lot of people that knew me on a personal basis. I mean, I had a personal relationship with all these people. So my hardship came in that I'm very ethical when it comes to how I do things. I'm very transparent, and basically my word is my bond. If I tell you I'm going to do something, my word is better than any contract, because I'm very tough on myself and I deliver on exactly what I tell people that I'm going to do. And if I don't, I'm very tough on myself as well. If I screw up and I fuck up somewhere, trust me, you don't have to beat me up. I beat myself up plenty. So this situation had me down and out, I would tell you, for a good 2 years. My mother actually came and visited me for 6 months because I was not eating. I wasn't really communicating. I became introverted. And because the weight of me going to these investors and putting myself out there and saying, listen, I will do right by you. I'm looking at the investments. I'm fully invested and fully involved in this. Nothing's going to happen. And they trusted me. There's no value on when somebody trusts you. That's worth more than any amount of money out there. I don't care if they got $10 billion. If you trust me, that's worth more than that. Because people with trust, they don't ask you questions. That's something invaluable. You really can't measure that. So the fact that a lot of people that knew me personally for a long time, I've done business with in the past, got screwed, I really, really took it tough. And I have the luck, I wouldn't say the luck, but these people, because they knew me, a lot of them called me and said, listen, we understand it's not your fault. We know that you're an ethical person. We know we've done business with you in the past. We know that this is not you. We know that this is not something that that you would do on your own. It's probably something that your partner did. But at the end of the day, I could have prevented it. I just don't know how. And I really took that weight onto myself for a long, long time. And I went through the same thing that Alex is going through. There's only so much pressure that a human being can take. And I always say this. Pressure does one of two things, and it depends on what you're made out of. If you put pressure on a brick, you're going to break it, you're going to turn it into dust. If you put pressure on a coal, you're going to turn it into diamonds. So the pressure that we get on a day-to-day basis, we have to decide what we want to make ourselves out of. And that has to do with what's in between here. It really is your mind. It really is what you're willing to take on, the weight that you're willing to do. I know I mentioned this also in one of the videos. In a couple I've mentioned this actually. I think I mentioned what the sound barrier example was when I started my business. When things are hard in your life and you don't know how things are going to happen, you just have to keep moving forward. You have to just go out there and know people, talk to people. Don't sit in a house unless you're researching. But you have to keep yourself active, because something is going to trigger in your mind that's going to give you hope. I don't care how bad things are, because at the time, when the whole Merrill Lynch thing was, I'll tell you, I blew through basically all the money I had. You guys don't know this, but I literally almost lost my house to foreclosure. My credit went to the shitter because I really had blown through the 9 months of money that I had saved up. Like any financial advisor, they'll all tell you, you should always have anywhere between 6 to 12 months of bills paid for. I had my 401ks, I had my IRAs, I had my savings, and I had my money that I had saved up to make sure that I paid my bills. My mortgage at the time was about $2,700. So I had blown through my I think I had like 7 or 8 months worth of bills. I blew through that. I still hadn't found a job in what I wanted to find in finance or economics. So I started tapping into my IRAs, my savings, and my 401k to the point that I had to decide, what do I do? Do I keep paying my house, keep paying my credit cards, or do I feed myself? And at the end of the day, screw everybody else. You gotta look out for number one. In that case, was me. Downside is, yeah, I took a beating. I took a nip in the butt as far as my credit's concerned, and my credit was a 776. You can only go as high as 850. So I really took a nip in the butt. And as of just recently, I've been working on the house. I'm still working on the house situation. We're actually in the process of eliminating the mortgage on the house because of some other technicalities that I got friends of mine that are very knowledgeable in this thing. So I'm always able to come out on top because I see things through. I don't give up. Yes, I take my wallopes. Yes, it sucks. Yes, I go through my depression. But I just don't have it in me. I've never had it in me to contemplate. Oh, let me not say not to contemplate. I have it in me to contemplate it. I don't have it in me to carry out suicide. I don't have it. Of course, you want to say, is it really worth it? It's really hard. Things are carrying. It's so difficult. Difficult is not impossible. It's what I always told myself. Difficult's okay. We can all do difficult. Impossible, even the Bible, if you really says, God will never give you anything that you can't handle. And you have to believe that there's nothing this world can throw at you that you can't handle. That's just a fact. You can be homeless. Can you handle that? Yes, you can definitely handle it. If somebody stripped you butt naked, took all the food away, can you survive? Your survival instinct would kick in. You probably eat frogs and you eat rat and you eat possum and raccoons and what else you can find. But trust me, you can survive. There's been stories out there all over the place of people going through really, really bad things and still coming out on top. Some of them just survive and some of them just kind of hit it big. I mean, you're in the U.S. I mean, there's so many stories here of people that have gone through living out of a car, being homeless, being a drug addict, and then, making millions out of just a change of here. I mean, the power that we have here and just what we think can be accomplished is so strong that you cannot let this beat you up. And that's what's beating you up, Alex, is your brain. It really is you. It's not the outside world, it's you. What's something small, it's kind of like somebody telling you you're fat. And I'm not trying to offend any of you guys out there that have a weight problem. I'm just going to give you an example. But magazines that tell you that you're ugly, that you should be looking like this, that you're fat. It's a comment. Why is it that somebody gets told they're fat and it doesn't affect them? And why is it that somebody else that gets told they're fat, they go out and binge eat and they want to commit suicide? And it has to do with this. It's no different. It's just kind of how you let that message impact you. And it's no different than whatever's going on in your life. You have to just kind of assimilate it. You have to understand that that does have an end. Pain always ends. Hardship always ends. What you have to understand is the beginning of the solution doesn't start outside. It starts here in your brain. It starts in you making a decision and making a choice that, I'm not going to let this kick my ass. I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to not do anything about this. And I'm going to figure it out. And if you have to go and kind of swallow your pride and start talking to people and say, hey, here's my problem. Here's what I'm going through. Can you help me out? You have to put your pride in check and you have to put it aside. I'm a prime example of that. You have no idea how hard it is for me, a financial advisor, graduate from 2 great universities, starting pre-med, all the accolades that I've gotten, to go to people and say, I fucked up my credit. I'm having a hard time paying my house. When my friends have been doing just fine. You have no idea how hard it is, but you have to swallow your pride. And you have to say, I'm a human being. I'm not immortal. I'm not omnipotent. I'm not this great, phenomenal guy that's without flaw. Everybody's human and everybody's got imperfections. Even if you go look at Donald Trump, he's gone through bankruptcies in his life. So, even the greatest of people have had difficulties in life. The thing is that they knew that also ends. That too will pass. And that's kind of what you have to focus on. Don't think that what you see on camera is what it is, because you guys might think I'm a multi-millionaire. Yeah, I do well for myself, but I've had my hardships. I've had to kind of file my teeth on some pretty tough stones sometimes. And, have I done well? Yeah. Am I a splurger of money? No. I think that these situations have taught me a lot. I didn't value money when I was early. My aunt used to give me whatever the hell I wanted. So, she taught me value money a little bit, but I really didn't understand money and the valuation of it until I was on my own. You have to kind of be really cautious of how you spend money. And I know now, even if somebody gave me $10 million right now as a compensation, I know that I would never, ever be broke. Not because it's $10 million, but because I know what I would do with the money. I know I wouldn't change my lifestyle that much because I don't need to. What, to flaunt and to say that I drive Ferrari? I think that's a stupid thing. But I guess what I want you to take away from this, Alex, is that it's your mind. Start here, man. Just start here. I don't care what you have to do, but you have to get your mind straight. And you can't let it be stronger than your willpower. Your mind will trick you at any corner, especially when you work out. It's the one telling you quit, stop pushing, it hurts. That you have to overcome, and that has to be heart and willpower. You have to condition your mind to know that they're not the boss. Your willpower and your desire, it's really what is supposed to control you, not your mind. Your mind just gives you logic, protects you from freaking making something too crazy. But your willpower is that when you make those decisions, your willpower is going to make it work. So you have to understand that it all starts with you. It's not going to start outside. The magic solution is not going to start outside. If you have to work on becoming humble, then become humble. Ask for help. You know, you have to eat shit, then eat shit. Put some mustard on it, but you have to do it. Because you have to understand that that is all going to be for the better and improvement of what you need to accomplish. So I hope that this video and all my railing that I've done has helped you out in something. I hope you understand that we'll go through these tumbles and we hit the ground and we smack our face on the ground and everything else. I don't care who you are, you go through it. I have gone through it. Justin Bieber's gone through it. President Obama's gone through it. Donald Trump's gone through it. Puff Daddy's gone through it. Nobody is immune to that. Nobody. The thing is that they've decided that that's not going to beat them. So you have to just kind of start with yourself. So I hope it helps you out, man. If anything else you need, just send me a message, email me, put it in the comments area. I do read all my comments. I'll see if I can help you out in either way. All right, man. Hope you're doing well. Stay strong. Don't give up. Focus on just beating whatever problem you're going through and whatever demons you got in your side. And don't worry so much about the problem. Focus on the solution. Stop thinking about the problem. If you focus on the problem, you'll always be thinking negative. You have to start thinking positive. Start figuring about a solution. Fuck this. Focus on this, because once you get your mind engraved and basically passionate about the solution, this will be so stupid that you'll be like, oh, I'll solve this, no problem. All right, so I hope this helped you out, man. Just send me a message. Hope this helps you out, and we'll talk soon. Take care.